G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Algared and Paul, aka the Astropub. Now, this is Paul's fault today. This is his episode. I'm just here for the fun. No.
Yes.
What are we doing, Paul? What are we doing?
Well, we're talking about something that I think is very important for people to understand because, like many of the things we've talked about, I think a lot of people get focused, they get laser focused on things. And one of the things I've heard, and I know Al and I know Execute have all heard this, which is that Star Citizen doesn't have gameplay or waiting for gameplay loops. And one of the things that CIG seems to be heavily focusing on this year is gameplay, but not in the way that you may realize. Obviously, CIG is working on new gameplay loops, but we really don't have that many left. New ones just fleshing out. Things like Salvage is out. Mining's been out for a while. Bounty Hunter version 2 is coming out. Pretty much everything else is just a version of that in some way, shape, or form. All the other ones we've had and just kind of fleshing that out. But the big way to flesh that out is for engaging in those loops, which is through missions. And missions have gotten a major update recently. So, yeah, Al, if you want to start us off with the modularization stuff, because I know you were talking about this before.
Yeah, well, we know that a couple of months ago we saw in the monthly report that the law team was busy writing up the vocab and the lines for the missions. And one of the big things they're looking at in the modularization of missions is being able to take bits, so make the mission, but then change them and make them different. Almost like making cookies out of cookie cutters. Make a dozen cookies.
Cookies with cookies.
Yeah,
I can't even say.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister.
So essentially, it's the start of the procedurally generated missions, essentially.
Yeah.
This is the first step of that.
And it's really big in the fact that they can actually once they do that modularity, to be able to take those bits of missions, take a part of. Just imagine, we've got those small investigation missions. Just find a lost person in a mine. The best investigation mission we ever had, though, was the Covelic Station one. You take part of Covelic Station and then change that to, find the package in Covelic Station that's been, that was the cause of the smuggling. Find, so you're adding more to that mission and that bespoke location.
More story too, actually.
More story and padding it out, and all of those missions, as Paul was hinting, tie into law. All these missions, all these things we're going to be talking about, as you said, Execute earlier, it's law adjacent. The more you know about the law, the more these missions make sense. The more you do these missions, the more it informs on your understanding of law. And that makes the universe and the world so much more dynamic and wonderful and enjoyable. So, yeah.
More engaging, I think is the word, but yeah.
A couple of, we're going to go through a bunch of these examples, but one of the big ones is that was kind of mentioned, I guess we've heard about, which is like 319, for instance. The missions that you go on, even for like the box missions, are no longer just boxes. They're now just things. So
this is something I can talk about, but it wasn't firsthand. Badgers was telling me about this, and he said so there's these new reclaimer missions, and when he went in, he had to instead of just picking up a box and delivering a box, he actually had to pick up like a defib machine or a scanner or whatever it was. And so there are now physicalized items that are quest specific or bespoke to those quests. So yeah, they are now getting physicalized items in the world, which is really interesting because I thought that was a lot further away than what we were at. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more personal too, because you could pick something up that you realize that is important as part of that mission, and is an important part of, say, like evidence gathering or stuff like that.
Yeah, it changes. Sorry, go on, Paul.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it changes those box missions, like where you're.
Oh, we've lost him. He'll be back.
We've lost him.
It's like having a stroke in real time. It's fun to watch. Anyway. All right, are you back?
Oh, we'll wait for him to come back.
Yeah, all right. There he is. He's back. All right, go ahead.
I'm back. So it changes those box missions where it's remove a dead body, or clean up crew, or the toxic waste, or is it toxic waste or is it a dead body? You'll get a better idea of that. And so it changes those types of missions. It adds more flavor to them as well. So
it's going to add to things down the line too, Algared. Like you might be able to do little puzzles and stuff, you know, like you find this item, then you find out later it's actually a part of a sundial or some shit. You know what I mean? Like you can actually like feel and touch, and that immersion factor is 100% true.
Or stealing like an ID card or some sort of piece of personal identification, and then being able to use that as the means to get through a checkpoint or through like into a building.
Well, it literally is going to define the game above other games too, because like think about World of Warcraft, all those fetch quests or kill quests or escorts, that was it. The same 3 missions over and over and over and over. That's not what we're going to get here. You know, like if they can get those items to work. So like I was thinking like, you know, the data cube from the Banu, like half the mission is just unlocking that. And what if it's so complicated that you've got to get it translated before you can unlock it, or find someone that knows how to unlock it, but they're in trouble? You can see very quickly how that as a mission change gets very big. And if it's dynamic, when Paul did it, he had to get it translated. When I did it, I had to save someone that could translate it. You can see that very quickly.
Very quickly, though, that modularity becomes really, really big, doesn't it? It just changes those styles, and that it's just revolutionary is the way to look at it. And when you look at those other missions, like you look at the missions we've got at the moment, they're generally box missions. Either find the dead body or it's take a box, and they're boring as batshit.
Can you remember daily quests, guys, in World of Warcraft? Like how you got like 10 gold for one or whatever, but it was the same shit over and over repetitively? Can you imagine if they just had those procedurally generated, and even if it was just like 3 steps, how much it would... Now, I'm not saying that that's what they're going to do in Star Citizen, but like just how much would it revitalize that? Like if there was multiple steps to it, you wouldn't feel like you're doing the same thing all the time. So yeah, plus a quest chain, plus... You know, if they can get some dynamic story in there as well, and you know, depending, like if I did a mission over here with I don't know, pick a faction, you know, like you know the Dwarfs of Mayhem or whatever they're called, you know, and I help them out. So over here they help me out, you know, but over there I piss them off. So over here they make the mission harder.
I get it.
You know, you get like if we start to have those relationships come in as well.
You mean having rep influence those missions?
Yeah.
Which is something what's going to happen. But before we get into that stuff, I do want to talk about some other stuff that's actually coming in 3.19. So this isn't something that is just a pie in the sky idea that CIG is talking about that they want to do in the future. Some of these things are actually in, like the thing we just talked about, the whole random bits, that's in 3.18.2. That's already in the game.
And they also talked about in one of the ISCs that with the missions is those chains will be areas where you can I'm only going to start, I've finished, done that bit. There's other steps I could do, but I'm not going to do them because they're irrelevant to me, but someone else might come along and do those parts. And so you've got this whole plethora of missions feeding upon missions. And
it's kind of a scary idea, a quest that you can do in multiple parts of the universe with a team.
That makes sense. You can think about it as like a laundry list. You can think about it as this mission giver needs these specific items, and anyone who can get those specific items, they'll give you credits for it. So you go and you get 50, you kill 50 sheep, get those 50 sheep wool, you come back and you drop it off, and you look up the next one, and it's like, go to this other system and pick this up. But you're just like, nope, I'm not doing that.
I'm thinking even like more complicated. So if you remember in Terminator 2, they had those 2 keys that had to be turned at the same time. So literal missions you can't do without people, you know, like puzzles that require 2 people. Like I have to stand on this plate while you go over there and do that, and then roll that up. What if it's like 16 people? I know that'd be rarer, but you know what I mean? Like a mission that's almost like a raid. That would be nuts. And then you go into like a full combat war thing, and then you got to get in vehicles, and you can see very quickly there could be some insanely epic missions.
I could see them doing that type of thing because it's a type of gameplay that encourages you to work with other people, and that's in essence one of the things CIG have been pushing as for us. Why we've got multi-crew ships to game with people.
Can you imagine a system where it goes, right, you're in a party of 7 and it starts generating missions for the number of people you're with? And then
I can see that.
And then all of a sudden, 2 people drop out or more people drop in, and
CIG can easily do those missions like that. Because this is something, because like all this is tying into all this ties into the dynamic mission system and quantum, which is not obvious, is admittedly not coming now, but a lot of this stuff is being put in place for that to happen in the near future. At one point, CIG had even said they were going to finish this last year the dynamic mission system background information, so like all of the tools for it, which I don't think they ever confirmed if they did or not, but they haven't talked about it, which means they probably didn't. But this modularization process is obviously a key aspect of that. And they're currently modularizing literally every little part of it. Some missions that are coming in next patch is the Ghost Hollow is getting its own Korea. If you're like right now with Security Point Korea, you go post Korea, you go and you kill a lieutenant, you get a key code, you can start accessing like illegal goods, like evidence lockup, all this evidence stuff, and then you have to kind of take that stuff and go to a place to sell it off. And in the meantime, people are going to come trying to get a counter mission to come find you. So it's a little bit of a PvP mission. There's a new mission that's involving Ghost Hollow, where you go to Ghost Hollow, you can access certain terminals. And if you access those terminals, the longer you hold those terminals, the more money you generate. So they even have things like, I believe with salvage, where you can pay for the rights of a location, but everyone can pay for the rights of that location. So if you get there and other people show up, it's a lawless zone where you if they try to salvage, you're not the only one who's going to be salvaging it. So other people can come up and fight you.
You're all legal salvages.
Yeah.
So.
And that same mission, that salvage mission, is broken up into they use the same module and used it for a legal mission where you just say, hey, I'm going to buy this area. It's just taken right here. They give you the coordinates, you go. And an illegal mission where they don't own it, but they know where it is and they can send you there. But you have to do it before you get caught. Or you have to do it quicker or whatever. So
the whole idea is create pirate missions as well as legal missions, as well as bounty hunter missions, as well as So just that one location generates all of those.
I've just kind of gone to the next step in my head. So say you had like 7 people, and you had let's make it 8 people actually, and you have 5 people on a reclaimer and 3 people on a redeemer, and you're in that quest, and so it goes right. They've got a redeemer, they've got a reclaimer. So the system generates a mission for a reclaimer and a redeemer with that number of people, and it goes right. So here's a combat mission with salvage or vice versa, and other games. I don't want to say other games are dead, but other MMOs are dead. Like if that becomes a thing, like that's just.
Well, the thing is that it's all based off of the probability volume, because that's once they have the missions based off the probability volume, that's not too difficult. But they need these modules to generate those volume missions, because without these modules, they can't do it. Now, that other part is just a matchmaking system. It depends on how in depth they want to get the matchmaking system for, because it'd be harder to tell. Okay, there's 7 people. Let's do this, but probably less of like there are 7 people. Let's do this.
Isn't it just procedurally generating missions to fit the party size?
Yeah, but they couldn't necessarily tell you if it was a combat mission or
well, you look at the ships. Mission. You look at the ships that the party is in and actively flying.
But they may not have any ships at the time when it spawns. So that would be that's a little bit more difficult. That would be more of there's 7 people, we can generate stuff to difficulty.
Well, here's the other thing. This is the other thing is you can look at the ships that they own though, and then go right. So these are the pool of ships they've got.
So our party has a javelin, right? Okay.
Or even at the closest area to where you are, so it can go right. Well, they're at Lawville, and at Lawville we've got these 5 ships and this many people. What's the best combo? Bang.
I don't know. This is all speculation, by the way.
It is.
For those who are watching,
but man, it would be exciting. Like it would basically mean you would never have downtime in this game. You'd always have something to do, and it would always feel brand new and fresh. And
I don't think we're going to see levels of where like you will never ever see a mission again. But I don't think I think we're coming to a point where missions are no longer going to be stagnant, where you get the same mission, like you understand what sort of like as a bounty hunter, what you're going to be facing every single time. Just, oh, this is a different mission. So I've got to roll the dice in terms of what I'm facing, but I'm always going to be facing a hurricane, a Valkyrie. I'm always going to be in this location. They're going to start adding things like, I got to go find out who this person is. Where do they go? Where are they at right now? What ship are they flying? What kind of stuff are they getting involved in? And going to find those locations. That's kind of like the investigation stuff. But it's getting, the CIG is getting so into like these missions that they're also doing the first like a new player experience that they're bringing. The first new player experience, which is the first 30 minutes of the game, set in ArcCorp at Area 18. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, I think this is really, really important. Like, we've got a free flight at the moment. I was looking at the stats of the sales, the income they've made. And in the last 2 days, the sales have gone through the roof. Now, the only thing I can put that down to, because there's no major ship sale going on, is new accounts. People buying new accounts and doing starter ships. And if the income has basically tripled, or what I think 130 to 540 or something in the last couple of days, that's a significant amount of new people, or a significant number of new accounts. That 30-minute gameplay is massive for those new players. The number of people who come in a game and say, how do I get out of my bed? How do I find my ship? Is so common when you're in game.
It's been the other way for so long, hasn't it?
So this will be huge, and is probably one of the most important aspects that's coming. My only regret is that they're not using, Hurston Dynamics as their or.
Now.
You should know, Paulie, that Hurston's a lovely place to be, especially if you're mixing.
Yeah. What was I going to say?
He hasn't heard, has he, about the variant of the Lynx that's coming? Oh, well.
He hasn't heard about the old man Lynx, has he?
No, he hasn't.
No, he hasn't heard about that.
Or the
You'll have to find out by yourself. You'll have to find on 319 there, Al. You have to find on 319.
Let's just put it this way.
So
leopard skin print.
The ooey Lynx.
Yes, cat skin everywhere. Now,
Paulie, one of these days, I'll have to have a talk to you about sampling the produce.
All right. So, the thing about this is that this isn't just a mission. This isn't, hey, pick this up, go do this thing. It's voice acted. It's designed as an introduction to the universe as much as it is an introduction to the game, and it takes you from Area 18 to the space station above Area 18 with it's like a simple mission. So, and it's only possible because of this modularization system. And I know people have been concerned in the past, like, hey, how are we going to get? How are they going to fix this? Because the last one broke so easily. Well, it's a module. Like, it's just a module. It's just something that they can slot in, slot out. If they want to update it, they can update it, or they can swap it out if they need to, which is why I think they've been wanting to really focus on that.
Do you know what I'm thinking? Is I might just grab a random person I know plays first-person shooters but doesn't play Star Citizen and record it and see how good their tutorial is.
Yeah.
And just say, like an episode testing how good it is, because I think that'd be really interesting to see. Get a couple of different people and just see how well it holds up. Is it a complete flop, or can I get a kid and get them to play a tutorial? Can I get like an older lady or an older man? Be interesting to see how deep it goes.
But the thing with the modularity is, even though they're doing this 30-minute player experience in ArcCorp, because it's a modular setup, modularity will mean they can actually set that up in Microtech, Crusader, Hurston, Pyro.
They just need to do a new voice actor and they'd be done.
New voice actor, click a new bit in, boom.
Might even not need that if it's done through the Mobi glass.
If it's done through some sort of I always joke that like I've always said that the best thing CIG has done for immersion in the game is the prison warden, because that prison warden is so he is so annoying. I just want to punch him. He is just so like gratingly positive, you know? Welcome back to the world, civilian. That kind of like his little announcements. It's just like, oh,
you're behind you, mother.
yeah.
Well,
You've been there long enough. He's so delightfully cheery, and it's grating, and it's wonderful.
I always like the fact that he points out that you're a civilian, not a citizen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like just like the ultimate, just like
you might be a civilian now, but you've lost your citizen rights, sucker.
So something like that would be perfect. And I think CG could do something like that with the Mobi-Glass. It's just kind of like a Clippy style, like, so you're trying to get out of bed, you know?
Yep.
that is literally from the stuff. That is the first quest. That it is literally get out of bed.
Get out of bed. First quest of that new player experience is get out of bed.
Yeah. Can you imagine that with desync? Like, oh, I've got out 54 times and it keeps putting me back in bed.
Yeah, I had a bit of desync with that today. It was really weird. Picked up a box.
Just jumping back.
Yeah, so weird. Anyway.
Go ahead.
And then I was going to say, and apart from those 30 minutes, we've also got the new missions that we're talking about in the roadmap update as well. They talked about 3 particular types of missions that they've got coming. So I think they talked about, actually, they didn't talk about the salvage contract. They talked about the data heist, package extraction, and investigation missions and mining. So that so they're new missions that we've got done and that are coming. So you talked about the mining one a bit earlier, where you get the rights to the mining location, but it's anyone. But it also the ability to have the pirates come in and do that because they know the location, and those zones will be very high in the resource, but it'll be a limited amount, and when it's gone, and then another mission will generate to do it somewhere else, and so they become really, it's not just a respawnable resource that, like you find in most MMOs. Oh, I'll just wait here and it'll respawn.
Yeah.
I can do it again. It's totally different. So they're quite unique. So there's those missions. Those investigation ones we've talked about in terms of being able to find just parts of a, just imagine the bounty mission where you've got to find out who the guy is. For the bounty for someone who's been doing X, Y, and Z, you've got to find who it is. You've got to find out what ship they are. You want to do that investigation so you can pass on the information so they can actually put the bounty out to go hunt this guy in that ship.
Yeah.
The possibilities of those missions become immense.
Yeah, like a cheap and easy thing, like industrial espionage, just like the Korea or the Kovalex mission, where you the company hires you because they're like, somebody is stolen secrets from us in this outpost. We've arrested most of them, but we don't know who did it. Go in here. And we go down there and investigate and get us any information you can, and then you can just find different bits of information, and you have okay, these are the things that are important. Bam, 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 and bam. We found fingerprints that match this, or we found that this specific type of lipstick was on here, or there was all sorts of little details that you have to go in and find and clue out those details to be able to pick up the right item, to find the right stuff, all those sorts of things. And that's just a module. All that stuff is just something they can put in a module and then reuse.
Essentially, what you're describing is not just, right now how you got combat missions, bounty hunting missions, medical missions, they're all separate game players. We're going to be getting cross-pollinations. You might get a medical mission that leads into a shop mission or a cargo mission or whatever. So that's what we've got to look forward down the line, like this ebb and flow. It's not just I'm doing piracy, I'm doing mining. You could literally have it so it goes all across the board to different things. That's going to change it as well.
But the big thing I find with that whole modularity of missions and the way missions are changing is that at the moment every mission is almost a bespoke mission.
Yeah.
The system is, I'm doing a box mission, I go here, I pick up these boxes, I don't take them elsewhere. And that style of mission is just, yes, it's random at the moment. It can be pick up boxes from these 3 locations, take them here, or pick up these 3 boxes from here and take them to these different locations. It's not really anything special. But the modularity aspect of them totally changes that.
I think that shows a bit of the history though there too, Algared. Like that's why they haven't really gone much beyond that, because they knew eventually they were going to have to throw everything out and do it all again. And as we know, they don't like to repeat themselves. So,
yeah. But this all leads us to the big thing. We talked about things like reputation. We also have things like the data heist, which is my favorite mission, because it's instead of having to stop hijackers from hijacking data or stopping Ninetales from getting data, now you get to be the hijacker and hijack the data. And this leads us into how some of these module missions are almost likely connected to other gameplay, like data heist. You're supposed to go to a place and upload data. How are you going to upload the data? The only way I can think about doing that is hacking. That's got to be involved some sort of hacking gameplay that specifically deals with like uploading or like hacking into a system. And one of those great situations where someone's like hacking into the system, and your buddy has to be there and like keep the hostiles where you're hacking the system to try to get through, so you can start uploading the data and stuff like that. So
it might be,
it makes it a little bit more interesting.
Might be the first of co-op gameplay too. Ones that are more focused in working together.
Well, you have to work it together. Combo.
Of course, the idea of package extraction, which is linked to, I think, the data heist, worries me, because kidnapping is often seen as a package. So, and you and Execute keep talking about kidnapping old man Hurston, and
I don't know about you, Paul, but I'm looking forward to the day when CIG puts the mission in the game where it's hack into Hurston, go into Lawville, find out the names of all the Uwu girls, and then go through and find out their contacts, get them released and up to freedom.
Yes,
I think that will be a quest we'll finally see at some point.
The problem with Uwu girls is Uwu girls are a result of taking Evercrack. And it's a hallucination. The effect of
taking and force swallowing are very different things.
Right. So now, and that's why Paul, that's why I'm concerned that Paulie keeps. That's why I'm concerned that Paulie is sampling the produce, because he's seeing Uwu girls everywhere.
Yes. What was I going to say with this whole thing? But the thing is with this package extraction, what its first version is it's basically a miniaturized version of the Siege of Orison. So it's what we already have something like that, but this is like that part where you have to not only find where they are, like a fight to where Ninetales is, but stop them from taking off with the stuff. And if they do, you have to chase after them, disable them,
multiple different stages.
Yep.
Already, as I was saying, different outcomes. Yeah. Already we're seeing that then. That's awesome.
It's very that seems very similar to what they talked about, the types of things you do in theaters of war.
Dynamic missions. Yeah.
It's almost like the stuff they're working on with Theaters of War is being used on other locations in the game. Like everyone's saying, it's been happening. It's almost like Theaters of War is actually being worked on behind the scenes, and those aspects are being turned into aspects of Star Citizen. Strange that is.
Yeah.
So like this is all we have now. This is stuff that's being worked on right now in development. A lot of those last three things in the roadmap update were updated last update, and these were downstream teams. Yeah,
these are things that weekly update talked about those things being worked on. They were the points of the progress tracker for the weekly update. So, yeah,
it's something that's going to be worked on, and probably I wouldn't be surprised if it was completed before the end of July or like August. This is the kind of thing that they can kind of iterate on pretty quickly. So this is stuff we'll see in like 320. That means that there's probably other missions, other events, other aspects of the game which are being pitched right now and are starting to work. We're starting to work on here shortly to be moved into the end of the year. And this is like 3 major mission types are going to be coming in short order. The next patch we already have 2. Which are going to be coming in 319, specifically the Ghost Hollow PvP mission, and then the salvage mission stuff. So, like, No, and the first, like the new player experience. So like this stuff is coming in thick and fast and is adding more and more and more kind of gameplay elements to the game.
How much?
And I know, again, a lot of people are focused on like gameplay loops, but this is the thing that makes the game digestible, makes it fun, makes you go doing something other than just your own content.
The loops will just fold into this.
Yeah,
I was going to ask how much of this do you guys think is behind server meshing? Like I can see the start of it here, but how much do you think will really be behind the server meshing and need that to come in to fully kind of fold out?
I think the dynamic part of it, like the part where it's just like it just changed stuff together overall, I think that may require, because that may require going over to multiple servers and stuff like that,
and multiple systems and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So I think it feeds into server meshing, but because you can, those dynamic missions wouldn't necessarily, if you're wanting to go across system, you'd want it to be linked to that. But if it's just within the same system, so Microtech to Hurston, or you don't necessarily need it, but it certainly feeds into that, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's also something that wasn't really needed. Well, it wouldn't be needed at all for Squadron 42 because it's just a lot more linear.
Yeah.
Well, you mean they're working something specifically for PU? Execute.
It's almost like they have an entire team that's dedicated to just doing this.
Yeah.
You radical person, you radical person.
It's like
how
Squadron
dare
42.
you suggest they're working on something other than Squadron 42? But yes.
Well,
it's like Squadron 42 might get out the door before we'd all die. Yeah, okay.
Well, the last 2 points I want to point out are also things that are important to point out, because these are what we talked about at the very beginning, reputation based, because this all boils down to reputation, because all of this stuff is going to matter depending on what your reputation is. With the last monthly report, we specifically heard, and of course the last roundup, we had the Rough and Ready gang and the Headhunters gang. Their outfits are starting to be worked on, which means that as of right now, we have the Overlords, the Citizens for Pyro, the Xeno Threat. We have the Fire Rats, we have the Headhunters, and we have Rough and Ready. So we have 6 different gangs in Pyro. There are only 2 in Stanton.
And if we take the Ninetales, we've kind of got, it's more of those illegal gangs, even if they're not in Pyro. It's just adding to that number.
Yeah.
Do you think it eventually is going to get to the point though where it's just going to go, I'm in Pyro and it's the guys in Orange? Like there are so many names in this game. Like one of the things I was saying to Algared a while ago is like they're not going to remember the names of the moons of Microtech. They might not even remember Microtech. They'll just go, I don't even know the number of the planet. Let's do Hurston because I know that's number 1. So they would just call it Stanton 1. Or I'm on one of the moons of Stanton 1. Because there's just so many names in this game. I just think some of them are going to fall a lot by the wayside.
Some of them will.
But if you are a very common local, right? So if you generally only play in Stanton, then you would learn all those names. But if you're someone that's like a traveler, like if you're in a whole E and you just go from one side of the universe to the other, you won't pick up almost any of that stuff. You'll only know the stations that you stop at. So yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how. Well, it's like the real world. Like I can't go to Cambodia and I would know all the cities and the states and.
But like, if you're going to be in an area like say Pyro, you probably know who the Rough and Ready gang are because you're either working for them or against them. And if you see like Rough and Ready, colors, you'd be like, even if you don't know their name right away, you'll eventually learn what they are because you'll have to, because the game will make you do that. As we've said with all,
we're gonna
have to know these names.
When the full game is out and there's like 100 systems and all the laws in, or a lot of it's in, we're gonna have to do Star Citizen trivia. Who is the gang that lives on such and such at such and such a residence on this year?
Yes.
And what's the third guard's along's name? Oh, it's Jeff. Right?
Yeah. Always Jeff.
But that's the point. It's like these gangs that are being added, which means we're seeing more gangs. And right now, the reputation system is pretty basic. But the whole purpose, like Pyro really is being built. As part of the reason it's being built is to test out the new reputation system, because there are 6 gangs in Pyro. None of them like each other. They all hate each other. They all want to kill each other. So if they all want to kill each
if you're
What's
buddying
that?
with one, you're
Yeah.
going to be enemies with the others.
Exactly.
You're going to have to pick.
Not
pick
only
and
that,
choose where
Algared,
you are.
you could literally be some kind of agent that's coming in from Stanton to try and get the gangs to fall.
Yeah.
You know, you could be coming in as part of Crusader Security or whoever Microtech or Hurston is. And
bounty hunter,
yeah,
come in and try to find somebody,
or even espionage mission. You're there to gather intel on the gangs to try and bring all the gangs down so they can clear out Pyro. You know, that could be your ultimate goal. And again, if it's dynamic, and we don't do anything, Pyro could be cleared out, and there's no pirates there. So pirate players are trying to push back while you're trying to clear it out at the same time. You see, it just goes very quickly.
This comes into the other thing, which is gang wars. So they're actually starting to develop territories and where these territories would overlap. They talked about in the last monthly report where they're trying to figure out where these gangs' territories would overlap with one another, which means that we're going to have a situation where the gangs will have areas that they claim control over that other gangs claim control over, which to me is pretty simple. That's where conflict is going to happen. So if you're looking to help out one gang in this disputed area, you just go there and shoot the other gang and keep them off that area.
They talked about benefits too, didn't they? Like if you are with a certain gang and they control an area, you get a benefit. So maybe it's like
discounts, or they'll give you free like docking, or or if you have trouble and you're near their territory, they'll show up to help you out if you can call from help.
It's a bit like it really builds on what we've got in Stanton at the moment. Like at the moment, you've got Art Corp, Microtech, Hurston, etc. You build your reputation with Hurston, and Hurston like you. But that's all it is at the moment. It doesn't really do much for you. If you're a legal player and you're attacked by pirates, the security forces will turn up, and if they're around, and they'll help. But that's really minuscule. This is different. This is the next level. This is two different gangs. They've got the home areas. They've got an area they both can claim. Now you're fighting over it, and they're going to have their own rules as well. They'll have, a bit like we see in the systems. You go to Hurston, they've got rules about what's illegal and what's not. You go to ArtCorp, they've got rules of what's legal, it's not. Along with the UEE rules, in Pyro, each gang is going to have their own rules. There might be an underlying pirates code, but then each of them is going to have their own rights and wrongs of what you can and can't do.
Well,
and so,
Algared, just taking what you've said just there and allowing that out to what Paul said before, you could actually have shifting laws based on who controls stuff. So, the cargo fees are really cheap with this one, but the salvage fees are really cheap with this one. You hear where I'm going there? So all of a sudden you've got industry people fighting each other, and not just
Yeah.
And the other thing this ties in with is, remember way back in the stretch goals, stations you could fight over for control.
There you go.
Now we might not be able to fight for control of, say, Ruined Station. We might be able to influence which faction is controlling that, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are small stations in those warring areas, or smaller outposts in those warring areas, where we'll be fighting to help our faction control it, or the faction we're supporting control it, which will then come into that Ghost Hollow style.
Can't own the TV, but can change the channel.
Yeah, but even it's similar to the Ghost Hollow one that's coming, where if you control the location, it increases your cash flow. So it's very similar to that. To me, it's ringing those bells of that early stretch goal of those stations and facilities or places you can fight over, and Pyro seems to be a place we'll see that. So, Pyro Gang War, for pirates, it sounds like an awesome time, and for those who are trying to bring down pirates, it sounds like an awesome time. So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'll wrap this up by saying this is all nice, but everything we just talked about before this, the modules, all that stuff, ties into this stuff. Without the modules, you don't have the missions. Without the missions, you can't get the reputation. Without the reputation, you don't have all this dynamic, interesting stuff by going back and forth. So this is the stuff that you should be paying attention to and really looking at, because this is bigger than I've seen anyone really make a deal out of, because of how much it's going to change how you play the game and how you interact with the game. Not necessarily just, oh, what am I going to do today? But like, what are you looking for? How are you approaching the game? That sort of thing.
What are you really wanting to do? Are you wanting to be a host?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to build them. I was just say it's going to build and build too. Like the more missions they can feed into that system, the more broader and wider it's going to get to, and that's the depth. You know, like we look at other games and say, oh, it's as wide as an ocean, as deep as a puddle.
Yep.
But that's where that depth comes. The fact that you can come back again and again and again, and it feels fresh every time.
I remember it was way back, you might recall as well, there were times when we were talking with Dyson ages ago, and that was one of his concerns, that we had this breadth of beautiful places, but he was concerned that the depth would be very narrow. But this, I think, just says the depth is going to be very deep, not only lore-wise, but also content-wise.
Yeah, I think we can definitely see that now with the way they're moving and stuff. Yeah. Right, Paul, where can people find you on the interwebs?
YouTube.com/the Astropub live, Twitch.tv/the Astropub live. You know, like my lore stuff, you can check me out at YouTube.com/the Astrohistorian.
And where find him on Inforunners.
And where can they send their feet pics?
Don't do that. Don't do that again. I already have people sending me feet pics now. You can send them to Chris Roberts, care of Chris Roberts to CIG in Manchester. I'm sure he'll love to see that. Yeah. Make sure you put your full name and your social security number on that too. To get that joke, you need to watch the Captain's Table where X was just on. So
it's all good. All right. We'll be obviously streaming on our Thursdays or Fridays if you're in the Down Under. Other than that, you got anything you want to add, Algared?
Yeah. Tell us what you're looking forward to in the missions that are coming. Do you think we're off our rockers, or do you think we're preaching the good news? I suppose that's a short take.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot more depth to the mission system, and even today I was just kind of having a little epiphanies here. Like, if they can get it as complicated as I think they're going to go, like, it's a system, and I've said this with other systems I've talked about before. You can see that the complexity of it is simple, but they can make it as like it's got this design element to it where they can just expand it up and up and up and up. So basically, the more money they get, the more players that come in, the more people that play the game.
They can just expand those out.
Exactly. Excuse me. All right. With that, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell if you want to go the extra mile on Patreon. Feel free to do so. And with that, he's been Astropub or Paul, and I'm going to cough my lung. He's been Algared. I've been Execute.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here.
Catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching.